we're just here kind of hanging out and chit-chatting, so we're gonna kind of take this pretty free flow. You might be watching this completely unedited, that's more likely. You might be watching this highly edited, less likely. But we'll be talking about just music, gear, guitar, different thoughts on things, and we'll see how it goes. So we'll see. Hey Andrew.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? Thanks for hanging at my place. So hopefully we are not moving too much, that books don't fall upon you.
Right.
It has happened. We have had high success survival rate. So
okay.
As long as you don't stand over there, but
Right.
that's like super
Yeah,
dangerous. That looks kind of scary, a little bit scary.
Yeah, it's a little different than the last time I saw it.
My dad keeps piling on the books. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So anyway, but this is the space. You actually see how three-dimensional the space is. So just a few things. I mean, I think one interesting thing to talk about is just because you're living in New York right now, right? And which part of New York are you at?
I'm in Brooklyn.
You're in Brooklyn.
Bed-Stuy.
Yeah. So for the benefit of people who don't live in New York or never been to New York, like. Why Brooklyn, and is there something cooler about Brooklyn than being in Manhattan or being in the different part of New York? Like, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, it's way more affordable.
That's a very good reason for any musician to live somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of lived there like the first time I moved to New York. I was just looking at Brooklyn, and it just seemed quieter than Manhattan. You could get similar rents in Harlem or something.
Okay.
Which is in Manhattan. It's like a neighborhood in Manhattan, and it's just more busy. I checked out some apartments there. It was just too loud for me. Brooklyn tends to be a bit more quiet, which is nice to come home to when New York is so loud.
Okay.
It's almost like PJ is
okay.
KL, you know?
So is Brooklyn New York's PG?
Sort of, yeah. It's definitely I think it's the most populated borough.
Okay.
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
Okay. Well, you guys can check it out on Wikipedia and like other more reputable sources for statistics. But like, okay, so you're in New York and you went there to study, and and you already graduated, yes, from
right.
So maybe a bit of context. When did you move to New York, and what did you study when you were in New York, and like what are you up to now?
Okay. I went to Boston. I went to Berklee, like us.
Yeah.
I went in 2014.
2014.
Fall
Wow,
2014.
it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I went there for about 3.5 years, and then graduated, moved right down to New York, moved to Brooklyn in 2017. Yeah, end of 2017, or summer of 2017, and I've been there ever since. And at some point, in the pandemic, I did a master's program at Berklee College, studying under like people like Antonio Hart. Okay. And that was really great.
So that was during the pandemic or pre-pandemic, or
like I started slightly before the pandemic, maybe like a semester before it started.
Oh, okay. So just before that.
Yeah.
And you graduated like when did you graduate?
2021.
So in the middle of it. In
yep.
the middle of it. Okay. And like how is it like? Because now you're obviously like you're performing, you're touring, and you're working with different musicians. How is it like for you, being a performer, being a session musician? How is it like for you in New York?
How is it like? I mean, at first it was a real hustle to get work, and it's still a hustle, Like, I don't think like I have I won't say I don't have, but it's hard for my personal kind of my temperament to go to a jam session at 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., which is where a lot of the sessions happen. They tend to be a little later. The session I'm speaking of is small, so it tends to be a little later. But like the other sessions are also pretty late, and that was tough at first. So for me, it was more about, I guess, meeting like-minded musicians who don't do that.
Don't go out late at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I mean, for the benefit of other people who might not understand, why are the jam sessions so late?
Why are they so late? Because the gigs are right before the jam sessions, so the jam sessions can only happen after the gigs.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. And like, when you start getting gigs, right, and you get new material, for example, like what's the common situation? Are people giving you charts, lead sheets? Are people giving you just the recordings? Or how many rehearsals do you have? How is it like from the point when you actually, after you hustle and you try to get a gig? What's some of the situations you've been in?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think working in New York, I worked with all kinds of situations in regards to like what you're asking. Like I'm not in a position where I can like take, just only the gigs I want.
Yeah, of
so,
course.
And that's the case for most New York musicians, I guess. And I would say, like it's different. Like for a pop situation in New York, then you would get just the chart. No, usually no charts. Just
usually no charts.
Recordings, and you would have to transcribe.
Okay.
Let's say if I'm music directing something, they would just send me like 20, 30 songs, and I would just chart out.
So you, as the musical director, are charting out all those.
Yeah, and sometimes I share duties with someone else.
Okay.
Maybe we take half and half, depending on how busy it is.
Okay.
How busy the season is.
And how much, like, let's say you get one of those pop gigs, right? How much lead time do you have from the point they hire you, they send you the scores to the actual, maybe the first rehearsal or the gig itself? Like, how much lead time do you have?
Usually we rehearse like the day before,
Okay.
or 2 days before, maybe 2 rehearsals.
Okay.
Usually the songs and the charts are maybe 2.5 weeks before, or
Okay.
2 weeks. Maybe about 20, 30 songs.
20, 30 songs. Do you find that, so have you ended up only you transcribing 20, 30 songs? Is that, or is it more likely that you hire someone else to transcribe it as well?
Usually it depends, like if nobody's free, I'll do it myself. I tend to like to share the work, and so everybody can get paid a bit more.
Okay.
You know?
So how is it? You don't have to tell the actual amount, but like, how is it like? Like, so you get hired as a musical director, and you have to transcribe, and I don't know, like, what do you have to transcribe and arrange, or are you just transcribing the parts, or like, how is it like? Do you actually have to have just lead sheet arrangements, or do you have to actually have part arrangements, or what is it? What kind of work is it?
For the work I do, it's usually more lead sheets, but with like heavy notes.
Okay.
Like I'll just write in very important parts that need to be played.
Okay.
Usually, and there's some arranging. I would say like 70% of the songs they want played as is, as close as possible, and the other 30% you can kind of arrange.
Okay.
Depending on the artist, of course.
So basically, sound like the record as close as possible to the record.
Yes, or whatever. A lot of them have like arrangements done before.
Okay.
And they want maybe like a live arrangement as similar as possible.
Similar as possible to that. And okay, interesting. And so when you get those kind of pop gigs, right? Like you get the recordings, you're transcribing it, you're kind of making like heavily notated like lead sheets for it, and are you hiring the rest of the band, or they just hire you as musical director and the people in charge are hiring the band? They put together. Do you put together the band, or they put together the band? How does it work?
Usually I put together the band.
Okay. And like, for the benefit of other people who might want to, like, they want to know like what gets a person hired. Like, okay, if you are looking for like band members for a certain kind of pop gig or something, right? What kind of bass player are you looking for? What kind of drummer are you looking for? Is it a temperament? Is it like how they work? Is it how they talk? Or how do you meet these people, and why do you choose certain people compared to others? Besides that, someone might not be available.
Right. I mean, first of all, everybody has to be able to play.
Okay.
Like that's like an unspoken requirement, right?
Okay.
I would say that the attitude is the most important.
When you say attitude, what do you mean? Like, what's an example of a good attitude that would get you hired?
Let's say I play with a person, maybe on another gig, right?
Okay.
And let's say the singer changes the song last minute.
Okay.
Like, sure, you can be mad inside, but like you have to be able to deal. Like you're getting paid for the gig, and maybe you can talk about it. Maybe like you're thinking, oh, I want extra pay, but the person you want to hire is someone who's like, in the moment, be relaxed enough to be like, okay, that's the song. Okay, you just learn it, and no complaints during the gig.
Basically, during the gig, someone who doesn't throw a tantrum during the gig, and just does the work.
Yeah.
And what would be an example of a bad attitude? Maybe you don't have to. Of course, you don't have to give names, but like if you have an actual situation or an example. for context, because people might not know what is, you know, you might perceive as a bad attitude.
Right. I mean, first of all, they don't learn the music. Like, you know, if I send them the music and they don't check it out, yeah, to an extent, you know, sometimes like the deadlines are so tight that they don't have time. But I would like to see like effort put in. You know, sometimes they don't do that, and it can be very rough.
It can be very. How is it? Is it the first rehearsal? Just they don't know what to play, or
yeah, it's like they don't know the lines. They don't know. And I try to make the lead sheets as clear as possible, and so does whoever I get to make the other lead sheets. We try to make it as clear as possible so you know exactly what to play. So if they don't play it well, it's usually the fault of just not checking out the music.
So basically, you're looking. A bad attitude is just people who don't check out the music. Anything else that, you know?
Yeah, and of course, like the opposite of the good attitude, you know, you kind of throw tantrums, yeah.
Okay. Would you say, like, okay, meeting and working with different musicians over the years, like, you know, like, how's the ratio like? Do you generally meet better? Generally, you meet good musicians, or are good musicians rarer to meet, or people who are like super chill to work with? Like,
I mean, good musicians, as in like that fit that criteria.
Yeah, kind of that fit that criteria. I mean, I'm asking. Okay, if you meet 10 musicians, right? Let's say we just give a rough number. Let's say you meet 10 musicians. What's the likelihood of meeting people that, you know, you feel like, oh, I think I can work with them? Like out of 10.
Out of 10. I mean, in New York it's quite high. I would say like it's like maybe like 70-80%.
Wow. So like 7 or 8 of them, and you might have 1 or 2 that. Like,
yeah.
Okay. And talking about that, so you've toured as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. So what are the, like, you know, what are the challenges that you face, like, when you're touring? Like for you, like, what's the hardest thing about touring?
Yeah. I mean, the hardest thing is just trying to stay sane, you know, with a hectic travel schedule.
Okay. Like what's an example of a hectic travel schedule? How hectic is it?
Like sometimes, I think the first or second tour I did, like sometimes we would play like 2 shows in a day.
Okay.
Like one in the afternoon at like a university or something, like a workshop, and then play. And then the next day we fly out. The day we arrive, we play the next show.
Okay.
And then they'll go on for like maybe a week or 2.
Okay. What's the longest tour you've been, like, duration-wise, like, on the road before going back home?
Maybe 3-4 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks.
And what's the weirdest kind of gig or clinic or kind of situation you've been in, like, in terms of the touring? Any like weird, like, you never imagine you would do a clinic there or do a gig there, or something? Any weird venues or weird circumstances?
Well, there was one that was pretty funny actually. There was there's some weird gigs. One that was really cool was we went to the mountains in Jiufen. It's in Taiwan.
Okay.
You know, they say these mountains look like the ones in Spirited Away.
Okay.
Like, I think they based that town off. Based Spirited Away off that town.
Okay.
And we just play in like it's like a transit gig where we in between like 2 more important gigs, where we had a day free, that we stayed at this like sort of hotel, motel, and they just let us play like facing like the view. And it was like almost no people there, just like the people in the hostel, you know, in the motel, and that was really cool. But like you know, I think right before that we were playing for like, I don't know, like 10,000 people or something.
Okay.
And then you go to a place where you're playing in front of like 5 people.
Okay. And was that one? So is that like? Was that a book? So you booked the show? That show was a book.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's just like to the scenery.
Yeah. And like some people were there, yeah. But I really enjoyed that one actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, weird ones. There was one I shall not mention.
Okay.
Like who, but like we got a recommendation for this this venue in a town in Malaysia that I will not mention.
Okay.
But they were saying they would take care of everything. We went there. They said, oh, we took care of accommodation. We took care of the venue. We went to the accommodation, which is just above the venue, and it's just a concrete floor with mattresses. There were windows, but no way to close the windows.
Oh, So it's just open windows.
open windows,
Okay.
and it's obviously just basically an unfinished like unit. You know, they just kind of
Oh.
slapped together,
Okay. Okay.
and then we asked them many times like, oh, do you have accommodation?
Yeah.
And like the bass player, I remember when he saw the accommodation, he looked at us, guys, I'm gonna book a hotel right now.
Oh.
And that's what we ended up doing.
Oh. Okay.
You know, like, and then the venue was downstairs, and it's basically the same thing,
Okay. Unfinished.
unfinished. Yeah. And they were just, I mean, it was just the venue not being clear with us, the organizers,
Okay.
because they had a venue, but it was in renovation,
Okay.
and they didn't tell us. They would say, okay, just
Oh.
come.
Okay.
They will make something happen for you.
Okay.
Yeah. That was wow.
Okay. That was well. And but how was the actual gig? Like, did people come for it? Or?
Yeah, it was not very well advertised either. Maybe like 20 people showed up, but
Okay.
like, you know, they were promising much more. They talked way more.
Okay. Okay. So they promised a lot more. Like okay, like talk a little bit about the business side of things, right? Like when you're like trying to book gigs or like trying to, I guess right now, like how old are you now?
29.
Okay, you're 29 now, so you've been doing this for a while. You've been in the US for a while. Like, how is it like on the like I guess the career or business side? Like, are you like, is what you're doing now like what you envisioned that kind of like what you wanted to do at the beginning, or has it kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, I would say it evolved.
Okay.
I mean, when I was a teenager, like,
what
learning
you imagine?
guitar, I was like, at first I wanted to play like U2. You know, my dad loves U2.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and Coldplay. I
Okay.
love that music,
Okay.
and I still do.
Okay.
And then eventually it kind of like transitioned to like, oh, I love John Mayer. I want to be John Mayer at some
Okay,
point.
okay.
Right until the point where I went to Music College and I decided, no, that's not gonna happen. That's not.
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
Was this here or in US?
Here, yeah,
Okay.
Icon.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
I was just thinking, you know, no, it's like there's already John Mayer. He already exists,
Okay.
so I don't want to do that.
Was there a particular point when that realization came? Like, you know, is it like through various things, or just is there a point that you remember like, nah?
I think seeing other people trying to do that and realizing that
Oh,
you know, none of these people will ever be John Mayer, and I definitely would never be John Mayer. And forget like his singing, you know, his
Yeah, yeah.
songwriting, just his guitar playing.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah.
Interesting.
And or it's not worthy aspiration, I think.
Okay, at that point, so you realize I'm not gonna be John Mayer,
Yeah.
and did something else come to mind, or was there a point of confusion and loss? You didn't know what you want to do or become, or how is it like?
At that point, I also saw like my friends introduced me to this Mike Stern record.
Okay,
I think it's called These Times with Richard Bona and
Okay.
Vinny Kalayuda. Great record.
yeah.
Forgot who's on bass. Richard Bona, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
And he sings great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen Bona live yet?
I have not.
I saw him in Penang, dude.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah, I heard about it.
he is insane because his bass, right? He has a tone knob.
Yeah,
Tone
yeah.
knob doesn't work.
I know. Yeah. I heard about this.
It's just
Yeah.
a volume knob, and then I think he did clinic. He was trying to make a point about his tone, and someone, you know, how do you get different tones? And someone asked him in Penang, and then he's just like, you know, he pretended to I don't know, mess around with the tone knob, and then he just adjusted his touch. And then he just wanted to make a point,
Yeah.
and anything he can sing, he can play.
Yeah.
And it's like quite scary
Okay,
to see someone that accomplished and so connected with his voice and his hearing. Yeah. Anyway, so you listen to the Mike Stern record. What happened?
And I realized, well, I can't play like that at all. You know,
Okay.
you know, like when I was a teenager, you start playing kind of rock stuff,
Uh-huh.
and then like John Mayer was kind of like Eric Clapton was kind of my gateway to like blues.
Okay, okay.
Well, I could kind of do that.
Okay, okay.
You know, it's like understandable, you know, to like a layman,
Yeah.
right? So, but then I heard Mike Stern, and I was like, yeah, he's like playing some of this bluesy stuff. But what's all these other notes? I have those notes on my guitar. Why doesn't it sound like that?
Interesting. Okay.
So that drew me down the pursuit.
Is this
of, like,
why your guitar looks like this?
No, actually, like I had a Strat for a long time.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Fair
This
enough.
guitar is a different story.
Okay, okay. Anyway, so you listen to Mike Stern and you have no idea what he's doing in between those blues licks. And then what happened?
And then I kind of decided, oh, I gotta check this jazz stuff out. It probably will improve my playing, and like that kind of stuck for way longer than I
Okay.
thought it would.
Okay, okay. Interesting. leave John Mayer, leave your John Mayer dreams, discovered Mike Stern, and then it started you on the jazz thing.
Yeah.
And and so like, kind of, I guess like let's try to connect that point to the point where you're kind of performing, you're a musical director, you're teaching. Like, was there a point when you sort of found a role model for like the kind of direction that you wanted to do in terms of your career or what you wanted to do, or was that from that point still a gradual process?
I think it's gradual. I would say like at this age I won't pretend to have everything figured out.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's gradual, but like I think the older I get, the more like those influences from before. Like I did study jazz for a long time at Berklee and at Queen's, right? And I still, of course, it's still music that I study, but I don't play it as often as before. I used to do way more jazz gigs in New York.
Okay.
But then playing with some people and like people that I connect with like on a personal level, like somehow that we connect also on a musical level, help me kind of rediscover like the stuff in my past, like the John Mayer stuff or the Coldplay or the V2 stuff, and made me kind of, I allowed myself to re-embrace that stuff into my identity.
Interesting. So it's almost there's a full circle going back to the stuff that you liked when you were younger. And how is it like when you came back to it? Because it's interesting, because what you're experiencing is similar to my experience as well. Like I started listening to a lot of in the beginning I listened to a lot of pop, and then a lot of hip hop, a lot of R&B, and then I got into jazz, and then later on I got back into pop, to R&B, into hip hop. Not necessarily performing it, but just like listening to it. And I find that I have a much deeper appreciation for things that at one point I thought was so simple.
Right.
But then when I look at it again, it's like there's a lot of interesting things happening there. Like how is it like for you? Like, is there an example of a song that you used to listen to, and then when like Coldplay song or John Mayer song or that thing that you listen back, you like now or more recently, and you got something out of it? Is that something that happened to you, or is just the general style?
Yeah, I guess the general style of it, like I kind of, it was more like I would play jazz, but or what people would call straight ahead jazz, right?
Okay.
Which is more traditional, and I would be playing it, but I was thinking, man, this doesn't make me happy necessarily, like I love playing it.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, after the gig, I'm like, yeah, okay, so what,
Yeah.
And that music's great,
Yeah.
It just wasn't my original heritage.
Okay.
Or like how the music I connected with at first.
Okay.
So then like trying to bring that other stuff, allowing myself to bring like the sounds of Coldplay, like texture wise, guitar sound wise, like the way you hit the string, you know, back into what I was already doing, like really gave me a different kind of joy.
Interesting. So how much of do you think it was like because you were in Berklee, because you were surrounded by certain like teachers and musicians? Do you think it was the environment that got you? Were you more into jazz when you were in Berklee?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then when you moved, because you were in Boston and you moved to New York, like, so I guess the process of discovery was when you were in New York. That was
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, in Boston, I would do some gigs that were like more pop or Coldplay kind of thing. Okay. But I wouldn't connect it. I would always kind of viewed it as like a lesser music at the time.
interesting. Yeah.
Almost because like Berklee, you kind of feel like, oh, I gotta be like the best jazz person that I could be for myself. Yeah. And my professors would already tell me like, like you gotta figure it out. Like what you want to play. And like I wouldn't listen. Because
you wouldn't listen.
I mean, like in a sense, because like I was, that's cool. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I need to learn this bebop head. The standard.
Okay, we're gonna come back, and because I just want to make sure I stop the video so we get a nice, good footage up to this point. After this, we're gonna talk about more of the playing side, and I'm just gonna like basically trying to wrangle a kind of like bits and pieces of a lesson from Andrew for anyone watching about kind of his take and approach and like different things that he does on guitar. Because I'm curious as well, and I think it'll be interesting to just asset stuff. See you guys in a bit.